Radio's Brian and the Judge. Very honored to have aboard with us this afternoon Judge Andrew Napolitano. Sir, one of the things that we talk about on this program is that we must, or I'm going to submit for your thought here, your response. We must realize that while indeed it's so easy to point fingers at the Congress, the President, and so on, we, the people of the United States, are ultimately responsible. We shall have the government we deserve.
Well, you know, I agree with you, and I got to tell you, you were kind enough, Jerry, in introducing me to mention the names of my books, the most recent of which is called A Nation of Sheep, and I got a lot of heat from a lot of loyal Fox fans who wondered why I was calling them sheep. Well, if you read the book, you realize that we allowed the President and the Congress to scare us into electing and re-electing people who would write legislation that attacked and assaulted our basic liberties under the Constitution. Mm-hmm. So I hate to say this, but ultimately we have ourselves to blame. It is still basically a democracy. We can still vote the governing elites of both parties out. There are enough people who support Congressman Paul and the Jeffersonian Goldwater understanding of the Constitution that we could people the government with individuals like that. Now, I'm not Pollyanna. I don't expect this to happen overnight, but it could happen, and the reason it doesn't is because we sheep-like keep sending these same characters back to D.C. Who will enact legislation without reading it, who accept summaries of legislation written by the people who propose it, who are afraid to enforce the Constitution, and who have no sense of morality, which is why they don't even understand what Ron Paul is talking about when he says that something is simply wrong.
Does it come down to something as simple as Mr. Adams thought, that our Constitution will only work for a religious and virtuous society? It is wholly inadequate to the needs of any other?
I happen to agree with that. I mean, that doesn't mean that you have to be Catholic or that you have to be Presbyterian or that you can't be Jewish or you couldn't be Muslim. But it does mean that you have to believe in a right and wrong. It does mean that you have to believe that there's something greater out there that is a thinking being that is more powerful than anything that we can imagine. To me, it's God the Father and it's the Holy Trinity. But you don't have to look at it that way. But if you don't believe there's a right and wrong, if you believe that everything is relative, then the concept of natural rights, that is, that your right to think freely, to speak as you think, to publish what you speak, to travel where you want, and to have privacy free from unreasonable restraints by the government. All those natural rights mean nothing if there is no right and there is no wrong. That's what Adams was talking about. And when Ron Paul says these people reject arguments based on the Constitution and they reject arguments based on morality, he's basically saying they're rejecting arguments based on right and wrong. So they're rejecting, the governing elites of both parties are rejecting Adams' advice. Look, I would cast my lot with Adams, and I'm not a fan of Adams or Hamilton. I side much more with Jefferson and Madison.
Certainly.
But I would cast my lot with all of the Founding Fathers before I would with the characters in the Congress today, because the Founding Fathers understood the notion of classical liberalism, which is that there are natural limits on what the government can do, no matter what the crisis may be.
That is something we're short of today. We neither have classical liberalism nor classical conservatism.
Yeah, I mean, George Bush says he governs in the name of conservative. And what is conservative about the feds controlling education? What is conservative about the feds controlling Medicare, Medicaid, and prescriptions for seniors? What's conservative about authorizing torture? What's conservative about declaring somebody an enemy combatant and trying to take away their constitutional liberties? I mean, these people don't even know what they're talking about. Conservatism means tradition, traditional values, family, neighborhood, belief in right and wrong, small government. It's the same thing as classical liberalism. But what we see from the people running the Republican Party today bears no semblance to conservatism. They just took the name and declared that whatever they were doing in that great name. After Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan labored for generations to uphold that banner, these folks have perverted it.
Judge, we have about 3 minutes remaining. Let me ask, in your activities as a judge, you're almost required to have sometimes the wisdom of Solomon, so let me ask you to pull upon that. And in the 3 minutes, let's solve the United States problems here. What is it going to take? What is going to be necessary for enough American people to awaken, realize where we are, and turn this thing around?
Well, look, I could offer a lot of technical advice, which I couldn't really go through in 3 minutes, about changes in the laws and changes in the Constitution. I've written about a lot of those, and you can Google it and find all of it. But basically, it will require a change of heart. It will require an urge for freedom over security. If Americans are more concerned with safety and security, then we will lose our freedom. And the safest societies in modern times I can think of were the old Soviet Union or the old East Germany or even Nazi Germany. Crime was at a minimum. You were as safe and secure as can be. But who the heck would ever want to live there voluntarily because they had no freedom? When Americans are more concerned with freedom rather than with safety, then these governing elites that have taken our freedom away will be booted out, and people who understand the Constitution, understand morality, believe in God, and know the difference between right and wrong will get elected to the government, and there'll be lots of them.
I have suggested for years on this program that the safest man or woman in America today is the person who is in solitary confinement in the most maximum security prison, but as you say, who wants to be there?
Correct. That is also, it goes without saying, the most unfree person in the world.
Exactly. Down to our last minute, sir. Any thought that you'd like to get out? Anything that I know your books are available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Borders.com. Anything in the works?
Yes, I do have one in the works, which is about the history of black-white relations in America, called Dred Scott's Revenge, and it'll be out in the spring, and it'll be an eye-opener for blacks and for whites about what really happened in American history. But if I could leave you with any thought, it would be from my favorite president. It would be Jefferson, which is freedom from the government is the true liberty of the people. Not since he said that have we had a president who understood it.
And in matters of principle, stand like a rock.
There you go. Jerry, it's been an absolute delight. I can't thank you enough, and I'm available for you anytime you want me, young man.
God bless you, sir. I really appreciate that. Our thoughts and prayers for you and family. And, sir, please keep up the work you're doing. It is much needed today.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Judge Andrew P. Napolitano, ladies and gentlemen. We're going